Hello, AP Seminar students, and welcome to another little video on uh, our writing process. Yesterday, we took a look at the different types of academic writing, informative and argumentative. And today, we're going to take a look at some tips for the type of informative writing that you're going to see here in AP Seminar. What are you going to learn today? You're going to learn how to do that specific type of literature review here for AP Seminar. We call it an IRR. So you're going to learn how to inform a reader about two perspectives that you've researched. Why are we learning it? We're learning it so we can do our literature reviews when we go to college, and specifically the IRR here in AP Seminar. You're going to look to see at the end to see if you've learned this, to see if you can write an informative paragraph about two perspectives on your topic. Remember, the purpose of a lit review is to explain the different perspectives, to compare and contrast the different perspectives, and then see if you can make an analytical statement about those two perspectives, or three, but this time we're just doing two to get us started. If you want to think about it in a different way, I want you to think that your job in a lit review in this paragraph today is to host a dinner party and to make sure that you're putting your guests, which are your perspectives that you researched, into conversation with one another. So if you want to picture, one dinner guest gets to say what they think about a subject, and then you as the host pivot. You have some transitional stuff to get then to the next guest and to get them to talk about what they want to talk about. This is not entirely foreign to you. I know in your primary school, you probably were taught by your teacher different academic discourse stems that would allow you to be like, I agree with Johnny, and I believe this connects to Sally's point. So you've done this verbally before. Now, where your job is to explain perspectives, you have to do it in your informative writing. Now, with your perspectives, you may see a whole host of different ways that they relate to each other. It is very common for us to see opposite perspectives. In our political world, that's probably about the only thing, unfortunately, that we ever see. So you might have candidate A say one thing, and then candidate B say exactly the opposite. So you might have perspectives that contradict or go against each other. But that's not the only thing that we see in academic research. We also see perspectives that are like the what about perspective. So here, perspective A says something, and perspective B agrees with what they say, but wants to add on something or focus on a specific group of stakeholders. They might want to be like, hey, what about this thing that we should be talking about? So sometimes you have the what abouts. You might have perspectives, one that focuses on a certain cause of it, and then one that goes ahead and focuses on an effect. You might have relationships between perspectives that talk about two different causes. So maybe one of the perspectives that you bring talks about a certain cause, and the other perspective deals with a different one. In AP Psych today, I'm going to be teaching about aggression. So one of the causes of aggression might be a prefrontal cortex that doesn't do a good job kind of controlling our behavior. Another entirely different cause could be a cultural belief in toxic masculinity. Both of them are different causes. They get to the effect, aggression and violence in our society, but from two different ways. You might have another one that takes a look at one specific cause and then sees the different effects that it may have. So you might have two different perspectives that deal with different effects. So I want you to think they're not going to all be exactly in one of these categories, but I think these are the most commonly seen relationships, with opposites being the most common, and maybe the what about being second most common, I think, at least I encounter in my research. And so what we have done for you is compile a list of academic discourse stems that you can use. Now, what are these? These are transition phrases that allow you to move from one perspective to the next to show the relationship between your two perspectives. In the LOR, this was the connective tissue that we were highlighting in yellow to have you show the analysis that you were making to show why the author was moving the claim in this direction. Here, this is you moving your reader to the other perspective and showing them that relationship. So here, if you have opposites, maybe you want to say alternatively or whereas, or however, another angle on this debate suggests that. And these are stems that you can copy paste right into your writing that you can incorporate as a writer to always show the relationship of opposite. This conflicts with, or this contrasts with. These are all going to be good stems for you to show opposites. Let's say you have a what about relationship. You could be other considerations should include, or however, this study's implications are limited as B highlights and then go into what B says. Other studies consider the relationship between, or A's interpretation overlooks much of and then go into what B says. This is going to help you show that what about relationship. If you have cause and effect, you can establish one and then say then due to that, to the fact that, and then transition to your B. The result of this is A is the most likely cause for B. So these are all different phrases that you can use. The major effect of A can be seen in B. I like that one as a transition phrase for yourself. Because A occurred, B is now a concerning trend. That's another one. If you have differing causes, another causal root can be seen in B. B is another factor to consider. I mean, these are awesome ones to use in your history writing. An additional contributor to the issue is B. That can give you other ways to transition to causes, and the similar ways of transitioning to effects. Another effect can be seen. B is another result to consider, an additional impact. But what I want you to do is first identify what the relationship is between your perspectives, and then make sure that you are giving signposts to your reader in the form of these academic discourse statements so that your reader can follow the relationship, and so that you forced yourself not just to explain the relationship, not just to state the claim, excuse me. I'm going to restart that. I want your job to be more than just identifying the perspective. I want it to be explaining the relationship, and these phrases can help that. Now, the other thing you have to make sure that you do in your informative essays, and in fact, all of your essays here at APSEM and in the world of academia, is to source your authors. And it should take the form of author, source, verb. So the examples here, notice the author's in red, the source is in blue, and good verbs are in green. One of the things I've learned from my wonderful co-teacher, Mrs. Galusha, is that you can improve your writing by improving your verbs. We've given you a little link here to see a whole bunch of different verbs that you can use. Notice I'm never going to repeat a verb here in my examples. So Adam Smith, the professor of law at Harvard. Again, not very long, and you can Google. You have the ability to Google these people because this is a take-home project. So a professor of law at Harvard argues. Blake Morgan, a customer experience expert, she was from the What is the Netflix Effect article, claims. Melinda Galusha, a fantastic teacher of ELA at Weymouth High School, disputes. And Bob Woodward, an investigative journalist at the Washington Post, identifies. So notice I am focusing on the author, not the title of the work. That's going to be in our works cited list. That's going to take up valuable word count that we don't want to take up. The author is the important person. What to do if I don't have an author? It's the organization that you want to source. So you might want to pick an organization and then say a little bit about that organization. If you don't have the organization and you don't have the author, now we're getting dicey. You can published in a journal, and you could talk about the journal, but then it starts to get really dicey. So that's, you want to source your authors. Please, please, please use quote nuggets. Do not quote an entire sentence. Stop doing that. If you are doing that, you need to hear me. Work the quote into your sentence, quote only a few words and only those words that are most important to make the point that you are making. If you are just dumping in large quotes, you are not analyzing it. You're not bringing it into your writing, and it's hurting you. It's also going to take up valuable word count space as we go along. How do I start and end? And this is where I think I need to be more clear than I had on the PowerPoint. You want to start with a topic sentence that lets your reader know the topic of your paragraph. And I'm actually going to argue that not just the topic of your paragraph, but maybe why it's a problem. Let them know that the problem, they should be concerned about it, that it's significant. That's going to be a good way to hook your reader into this. And then you want to end with a sentence that analyzes the perspectives. So start with making the reader concerned about this problem, and then it's going to bring them in and kind of define the problem a little bit. End with a sentence that analyzes, and that might take the form of explaining why it's important to consider both of these perspectives, or maybe why it's important to value one over the other. That could be a way for you to conclude this paragraph and any paragraph that you have that's looking at different perspectives. So what are we going to do with this? We're going to write a paragraph, and we're going to look for 4 things when we explain our perspectives. We're going to try to use those academic discourse stems. We're going to establish the credibility of our authors. We're going to use quote nuggets, and we're going to try to end with at least one statement that looks at the relationship between the 2 sources. Good luck. This is going to be the basic type of paragraph that you use for your entire IRR, and anytime you ever do some informative writing that looks at different perspectives. Thanks a lot, AP Summers.